For the few of you who have kept up with all the episodes we've recorded, there's like a pretty consistent trend that our third co-host is either not here physically or mentally, and we'll reveal at the end of the show which one it is. You won't be able to tell if Stefan Malov is just doing his regular bit of not saying anything or if he's actually not present. But regardless, we are back for another week. Obviously, Kicking Tires podcast in association with the amazing people over at Inside the Rink. I am your host, Alexander de Berardinas.
And I'm your other and only other host for today, Shola Shola.
And we're coming to you after definitely one of the weeks of hockey that Detroit's played. Like, recency bias kind of factors in where you don't feel too bad about it. But, if you think back to Thursday and Wednesday in the middle of the week, it was pretty dreary. We're going to get into our recap, our general discussion points, and then give out our weekly MVPs and best moments in the usual fashion. So we'll start with the recap heading into the first game of a back-to-back. Detroit goes into Buffalo. They ultimately fall 4-2. It was not a flattering effort. Detroit was very clearly flat-footed. You saw them struggle on the forecheck a little bit. They looked sloppier. They looked like they didn't control play as well as they had in the first 6 games. Even the Montreal game, I think, looked a little bit better than that. Emmett Finney kept it close on a power play goal, I believe. No, I think it was even strength. Even strength goal at the end of the second to come out 2-2. But ultimately, the dam broke, and the Red Wings penalty kill wasn't able to stay red hot, and it was John Gibson who not faltered, but allowed a couple goals in the third to put the game away for Buffalo. It was one where Detroit didn't really have a chance in. Like, they were hanging around on the scoreboard, but every underlying number and analytic kind of told the story that Detroit was getting firmly outplayed by a Buffalo team that's kind of started to catch fire after that win, which is unfortunate for the Atlantic Division playoff race, which had some very weird shakeups this week, and we'll get to that in our second segment. So on the second night of a back-to-back, Detroit obviously wanted to bounce back from a poor effort, and they went into Long Island for possibly the worst effort of the last 3 years. Like, basically since Detroit's fancied themselves a playoff team.
Yeah, second out of a back-to-back, you expect after that game to see a little bit more effort, as you said, from numbers, you can see that Detroit was kind of in it, but at the same time, they were getting heavily outplayed by the Sabres on that first night. And then you come into a second out of a back-to-back away from home and get absolutely destroyed. There was no chance. And it was rough to watch, honestly. That first and second period, it was just what's it called? Fast break after fast break from turnovers. So every single time the puck's getting away, the Islanders were out and skating. I'm not gonna say out and running, out and skating. And they were down. They got 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s. They had breakaways, anything you could imagine off of a fast break the Islanders got, and it led to goal after goal after goal. Um, but some positives, Dylan Larkin kept his point streak up with his goal, and who else? And Berggren scored. So like they did get a couple goals back in the third period, but even after they got their goals back, it still was seeming like the Red Wings didn't come out to play. Cam Talbot, I I don't want to blame him for most of the goals, but if you let in 7 goals, there's some conversations to be had on if some of the goals were his fault or it was the defense's fault or it was the whole team's fault. But there were some parts where you expect Cam Talbot to save where he ultimately did not, and it led to 7 goals going in for the Islanders. And we move on to the game of the week for me personally. As I was seeing everything that was happening, me and Alex were talking in our group chat on every goal that was happening, and we go into back home on I can't oh on yesterday. It was yesterday.
Yeah, it was a
We're
Saturday
recording
game.
on
Today's Sunday,
Sunday.
if you can
We're,
believe we're
we're
getting this
recording on
episode
Sunday.
on
It was
Monday.
yesterday. I forgot it was yesterday. Um, so we go back home on Saturday to play the Blues, and we start the game off getting destroyed once again. And I thought it would be a repeat of what happened during the Islanders game where we were going to get outskated. We were going to get beaten on fast breaks with a 2-on-1s and fancy plays from the Blues and just not enough hard work from the Red Wings. However, the complete opposite happened. There was a 6 goal, um, how do I say it? Like they scored six in a
Yeah,
row
six
with no
unanswered.
contest, six unanswered, no contest, and the Red Wings win, which was was great to see. We got 2 goals from Simon Edmondson, which one of the goals was fantastic. Scored from that blue line. Holy, I was praising it before we started recording this with Alex. Oh my god, I love that goal. Alex DeBrincat gets his first goal of the season. Emmett Finney keeps up his scoring streak. He's playing well this at the start of the season. Dylan Larkin, his point streak is over, but he still
Yeah, even though
played
they
particularly
gave him
well.
the assist initially on the Finney goal, him and Raymond should have got the assist, and then they deemed that St. Louis had possession before the goal.
Yeah, and I was rewatching that back before the episode started, and I could see why they gave it to the Blues as a pass because like it did go off of one of the sticks of the Blues defenseman, I think. So I can, and it did go forward, so I can see why they gave it to the Blues, but it should be a Larkin assist. It was the goal was made by him for Finney. So it's unfortunate that his point streak had to come to an end like that in that fashion, but he did play particularly well during that game. JT Confer, goal and assist. Berggren, goal and assist. Everyone played particularly well this game, and there's nothing bad you can say.
Well,
Um,
for the second half, they played well.
okay, well, sorry, yeah, after that timeout,
The
sorry, after
cumulative product was
yeah,
okay, but
yeah, yeah, the at the end goal, we got there in
yeah.
the end, but that first and half the second period, it was more of the same that we were talking about from that New York Islanders game. So
Yeah, and the win in St. Louis was kind of was the antithesis of everything that the Red Wings have been doing so far this season. Like there was no depth scoring all season, and we talked about it. In this game. You're getting goals from like Comfer and Berggren, and your defense is stepping up, and you get goals from all over the lineup. Like your entire, I think there was somebody on each line that scored a goal, which was really nice to see. Pardon me. Um, and you get, Edvinson was a big story this week with how poorly he had been playing. He gets 2 goals, which I get it. It's like he was playing bad defensively up until that point, but you hope that the 2 goals was kind of a omen of things to come, even if one of them was pretty lucky and it took an awkward bounce. And like it's hard to kind of go into next week worrying about those same kind of things because you've kind of seen proof of concept that they don't have the same quit that we might have thought they did, and they don't have the same depth scoring issues that we might have thought they did. They kind of had a good complete like revolution back the other way, and even down to the goaltending, John Gibson shut the door in the second half of that game after getting shelled. It was almost paradoxical. I don't know what McClellan said in that uh, timeout. I don't know what he said in practice. There was news that came out of practice. Ansar Khan reported that McClellan told a unnamed skater, "Where the fuck do you think you're going?" So I don't know what the hell is happening. It's very clear that McClellan's not thrilled with the way that this team is playing, even in the win, and it's hard to be right. Like through the back-to-back losses and then the first half of the Blues game, legitimately, like there was a stat that came up where there was 7 consecutive periods where Detroit had allowed multiple goals or something. Like it was one of those things where you're just like, man, nothing's going this team's way. And again, even down to the little storylines, like DeBrincat, who hadn't scored yet in the first half of the game, he hits a couple posts, gets robbed. Second half of the game, he nips one on the most DeBrincat shot ever. So Detroit gets a really nice turnaround. They kind of fix a lot of the issues in St. Louis and give some pause to the fans who gave up on this team in this third week. So it was nice to see from this team, and it was a good showing overall to come back. Very impressive, but this team has a consistency issue, and this coming week will be kind of the decider on that. So we're gonna hop into our second segment, just kind of discussing some of our storyboard points, some of our main things that we wanted to touch on, and we'll kick it off with what forward lines or like duos or defensive pairs, like what kind of combinations and team chemistry have you seen, Chola, that you've liked from this team through this week and even into last?
Honestly, if I were to give, I'm gonna give two. I'm gonna talk about forward specifically. Um, I think the pairing between Emmett Finney and Dylan Larkin has worked particularly well even this week and last week. Obviously, last week we can talk about the Edmonton game where Finney and Larkin were just dishing it to each other. It was really just Larkin dishing it to Finney and Larkin getting his two goals as well. But no, I like that pairing. I think they both work well together. I like Finney's movements throughout. I think he has his ways to get open for tap-ins, and Dylan Larkin has that playmaking flair to find him. And that's why I think that pairing works so well. Even with Lucas Raymond, I think that whole top line, like obviously you would expect your top line to perform that well, but I think the pair of Dylan Larkin and Emmett Finney work particularly well, and then Lucas Raymond finds ways to be effective with those two and their chemistry together. And one more that I wanted to talk about, especially this week, we were talking about it last week's episode about the depth scoring and how it was practically non-existent last week, with most of the load going to Dylan Larkin and Emmett Finney, and really the top pair. Um, so seeing that JT Comper and John Berggren got goals this week in multiple games. They got a goal and assist, the both of them in the St. Louis game. Berggren scored in the Islanders game, and Comfer scored in the Sabres game. So you can see that that pair together is working. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're working with MVN. I don't know who else is with them. It might be Mike Rasmussen. I
It's kind
cannot
of been a
remember.
revolving door. Like there has been
Yeah,
MBN shifts. There's been like I've seen Cop flex down to that wing because they were running 11 forwards in the St. Louis game. Like everybody was kind of playing with everybody. But yeah, like just Berggren and Comfer, I think it's a weird duo. I don't think they like complement each other's play styles particularly well. But I mean, the points speak for themselves, and especially Jonathan Berggren. Like he's been a healthy scratch for a lot of games this season. He has 4 points through 5 games. Like he's on a point, like on a per game basis. Like Berggren has been one of the best like offensive forwards on Detroit, and I think that's something that's really kind of got glossed over, especially with McClellan, who values like two-way hockey, that like grit and grind and playing the right way. Berggren doesn't necessarily do that. He kind of has his own flair, and he's very much like an offensive factor. And I think he's kind of been flexing his muscles a little bit this week, where he kind of rakes up some points and he looks really good. He kind of gets the ball rolling in St. Louis, and it's a great effort overall. And I think Berggren is a guy that's been in trade rumors, and his future with this team is uncertain. But Berggren continues to be one of the better stories of Detroit's season so far. Just the way that he's been able to play make with an inconsistent spot, and it's hard to build chemistry when you're in and out of the lineup. But Berggren has been very impressive to me. And like you said, Emmett Finney, like that kind of honey badger style is what made Marco Casper work so well with Dylan Larkin. So there's kind of proof of concept that you just kind of need that like grit and grind player. And Finney's a perfect fit. It seems like he's throwing hits really well. He's able to finish. He's able to facilitate well enough for a rookie to help get Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond theirs. When that top line was broken up in Long Island to try to get DeBrincat going, like you really saw that the team's offense kind of looked flat-footed. And when Finney, Larkin, and Raymond were back together, obviously they get the goal despite some weird assist drama. they were by far one of the best lines for Detroit, and you kind of continue to look to them to be the leaders for this team offensively, while hopefully Berggren and whoever he's paired with can kind of get some offensive flair going in the bottom half of the lineup.
Yeah. Um. Now, I agree with everything you're saying. I think honestly, like when Alex DeBrincat was paired with that top line, I think like as you said, there was like they don't. I don't think they work that well together with Dylan Larkin. Like I don't think they complement each other as well as Dylan Larkin and Fane complements each other, and I think that's why Alex DeBrincat and Marco Casper work so well in that second line. Like I obviously the lack of points is what you would say like okay maybe they don't work as well together, but I think like with what we're going to talk about next with the importance of Patrick Kane being out, I think that trio as a whole, that second line forward pairs, like that was that line is way better than okay if you're trying to slot Marco Casper in with Lucas Raymond or you're trying to slot Alex DeBrincat in with Dylan Larkin. Like I think you can't split those three of Patrick Kane, Marco Casper, and Alex DeBrincat up. I think those three complement each other way more than if you were to split them up and work them together with other players. And Dylan Larkin and Emin Fitty have that sort of connection, like that I've seen so far, um, of like as you said, Emmett Finney throwing hits, being a grit dude. He's moving around. He's making his movements. He's like as you said, he's facilitating a little bit to the point where you it's acceptable for what a rookie can put up. And then Dylan Larkin being like that piece of the puzzle that you need, like that one person who can just you can rely on to play make for himself, play make for MFNE, play make for anybody really. And I think that's why that top pair works so well, and I think that's why that second line works so well. And for me, now I don't really know the pairs for the defensemen. I think but players that I do want to highlight that I think have been playing well, um, is Ben Sherratt. I think even like this week, well, okay, this week you can't really say anything about the Islanders game because everybody played like absolute dog shit. Um, but like I think in terms of more speaking of last week, I think during the Florida game, I was watching the Florida game and I saw that like Ben Sherratt was throwing hits. He was getting hammered. He got a puck to I think the knee, a puck to the arm, like he was getting hammered around, he was getting thrown around, and you still saw him play to the best of his ability. He was still throwing hits, he was still blocking shots. He was still moving around, even though he looked a bit gingerly, like he was moving a little gingerly to the bench. And you saw that he wanted to come back on. Like I commended that, and I was like, oh, okay. Like he's playing really well. And like there's nothing really like I bad. Obviously, like there are some moments during some games where you can say that all defensemen are bad for the Red Wings, especially this week, where in this Blues game they scored four, the Islanders game they scored seven, and then the Sabres game they scored four. They got 15 goals scored on them in 3 games after last week. They got like I don't think they got 10. Yeah, we talked about it. They got okay, well, we talked about 5 games, so you can't really count it as them being in double-digit scoring. But like in the 3 games that we're talking about now, compared to the 5 games, they scored more in those 3 games. So, um, speaking of more last week to this week, I think Ben Sherratt is one of the players that I'm looking for to still step up in his role, as I think he's on the top line defenseman, one of them, to continue throwing hits around, continue to block shots, and continue to just be that wall that we can have in front of either John Gibson or Cam Talbot.
Yeah, and I think like not that Red Wings fans forget this, but the sophomore slump is a very real thing, and you're kind of seeing it hit both Marco Casper and Simon Edvinsson. And Ben Sherratt's kind of emergence, like it's hard to say you expect a jump at 33 from a guy like that, but Ben Sherratt kind of stepping back into a big role and kind of playing much improved has kind of covered up for Edvinson's mistakes when he's been struggling to kind of keep pace. So I think that's a really underrated aspect of it. And him and Sider look steady. Defensively, I think Sider leaves a little to be desired offensively. But yeah, like I think the forward lines have been better in the St. Louis game. It does kind of call to question what's going to happen because there was only 11 forwards in that game. And I don't think you can do the line blender thing every night. Like you're just going to kind of wear down your forwards. So it'll be interesting who they decide to keep together and who they decide to pair off. But a big part of whatever pairings come about is Patrick Kane. In the broadcast, Ken Daniels mentioned that Patrick Kane is kind of expected to be back around the end of the LA road trip, which is where they're off to after St. Louis, which is going to be kind of an extended timeline from what we thought. Like for what the first injury was, like I kind of figured it would be maybe like end of the game or he'd come back in a night or two, but this seems like a multiple week kind of endeavor. Which obviously at Kane's age, it's part of the risk. I don't want to say you expect it because he has been fairly healthy with his time in Detroit, but it's definitely a risk that you kind of take with Patrick Kane. But that second line does need him, and you saw DeBrincat kind of willing himself to score a goal and really going out of his depths to kind of just make a solo effort and rip one past Bennington. He likes being on the receiving end of good passes, and Marco Casper's not really that guy. He's kind of that honey badger for the second line, same way Emmett Finney is for Dylan Larkin. They kind of need that operating piece, and you can see it on the power play. Like, I will commend Emmett Finney. I think for a guy who's not really a playmaker, kind of standing in Patrick Kane's role, he's been all right at finding seams and receiving passes. So half marks there, but you can't replace Patrick Kane, especially not with a rookie. Um, so his injury has kind of been very clear this week, and how Detroit's kind of struggled on offense. I mean, 8 total goals across the 3 games. Oh, sorry, not 8 total goals, 10 total goals across the 3 games, but 6 of them came in one go. That's kind of the worry is that when Patrick Kane's out, the power play looks much reduced. And you're not only depending on Dylan Larkin and Alex DeBrincat and Lucas Raymond scoring, but you're depending on them doing it at even strength because I don't have Patrick Kane to help out on the power play. So, the worries are kind of amplified there the more that this goes on. And you can only hope that Kane has a speedy recovery and makes his way back sooner rather than later. You hope he kind of gets out to the LA and Anaheim games, maybe sit San Jose. You obviously need Kane back as soon as possible. So Detroit beating St. Louis, we talked about how it kind of changed the tone of the week in terms of problems. Do you think that it changed the energy on this team? Because the kind of calculus was maybe last week was just a fluke and they kind of ran hot. But right now in Wings world, there's kind of some faith back in this team.
honestly. And I'm gonna I'm gonna base it off of the whole season so far. I think um I'm gonna start from the beginning of the season and then come back to this week. Seeing that home opener and season opener and them getting absolutely whooped by the Canadians, I think that showed a statement. I don't think it brought the vibes down because it's only one game into the season. Like that's going to happen one or two, or actually, it's going to happen a lot during the season. We hope not, but like it's going to happen sometimes during the season. And then you see that the Red Wings go on a 5-game winning streak. So like clearly the vibes were not down after that 5-1 loss at home during against the Canadians. So I thought the vibes were hot, sky high, and I was talking about it last week with a prediction and me saying, okay, the Red Wings could go 2-1 this week, and I thought they would, but and you said they were going to go 1-2, and they did.
I said it'd be okay if
So
they went 1-2, and they really pushed the
yeah,
boundaries of how okay I was going to be with a 1-2.
so like as like I, the 1-2 was a very like it was very soft 1-2. Like it should have been 0-3. That was very lucky that we were 1-2 this week. But honestly, I think the vibes are high. I think the vibes could go up. Obviously, two big losses this week, but it's gonna happen. It was a back to back against good teams. I would assume based on how I'm watching, they look like good teams. If they're not good teams, I don't know what they are. Um, but I think the vibes are high. Like it was a back to back. Maybe some people are still tired off of the. I know Buffalo and, and the Islanders are in the same state, but you are moving down. Like you're you're moving to different parts of New York. Um, so I get if that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. But a comeback win after you're down 4-0 brings vibes high no matter what the rest of the week was saying before. And technically, like we recorded on a Monday, we shouldn't have, but technically they did go 2-2 this week. We just said they went 1-2 because that's when we recorded. They if you start the week on Sunday, they technically went 2-2. So there's nothing to be afraid of. I think with Patrick Kane being out, that is something to be afraid of, and how Alex DeBrincat and Marco Casper are going to play, how Mo Seider is going to play offensively. There's a lot of different little storylines that you can be worried about as a Red Wings fan, but I think the vibes can go up. I think with next week's schedule, I there 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 could be ways to what am I trying like I can there can be ways to bring the vibes higher. There like we are going on the road to Buffalo and then the LA trip. Like I think if we play like we did the week prior to this week, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. The big part of it is it's still the beginning of the season, so everything good or bad is amplified times 10 just because of the sample size. Like I was kind of hesitant last week. I'm like this team, I'd be okay with 1-2 or whatever, but this team also isn't like a 5-game win streak against top teams level team, and they're also not a get mollywopped by the Islanders and Sabres level team. Like, not to say they're in the middle. I don't want them to sound like they're just okay. Like they're a solid team, but it's still early, and the full sample size I think is kind of what throws people off. So the vibes are the vibes, and this is an emotional team. We've talked about this, and you've kind of seen that emotion being used for good, especially in the St. Louis game, and you've seen the bad side of that in the Islanders game. You're going into a very winnable trip. I think the LA road trip is not what it used to be. The Sharks are among the worst teams. I believe they are the worst team in the league as of right now. That think they're on top of the Wild as we speak. Um, Anaheim is in the same kind of boat that you are. They're both, up and coming younger teams looking to get into the playoffs or at least make some noise. And LA is kind of falling over with that terrible Cody Ceci signing. So you can very much pick up a good, 3 wins in this next span. I don't want to say week because I don't know how these games pan out. The next team you play is against St. Louis when St. Louis is coming off a back to back. You kind of take this all with a grain of salt because it's still early and you still really have to understand that the jury's out on this team and every other team in the NHL. I don't think Tampa Bay is the worst team in the Atlantic or the Eastern Conference, like the division has them right now. But I also don't think Buffalo is going to make the playoffs. So again, patience is a virtue, but for such an emotional team, you've got to think that a win like this will kind of do wonders, and you hope it'll kind of push them forward. And you hope that it doesn't take a Todd McClellan speech every game to get the team to have a fire under their ass. You'd hope that they kind of just do it to themselves. But you kind of take it for what it is, and ultimately, a 6-3 result on the season, you'll take that given the quality of competition. And I think if they get out of October, out of the 10-15 game mark, if they still look good, yeah, I think some playoff conversations are in play, which is something that Detroit fans have had to do cautiously because every year for the past 2, they've looked like they've been in playoff conversations and then they choke it away. So don't do too much stat watching, too much standing watching, or anything of the sort for right now, and kind of hold your breath for at least a couple more games before you start judging on the nucleus of this team. So we're gonna get into our third segment. Obviously, shorter episode as it's just the two of us, but you probably couldn't tell sitting at home. Um, we're gonna get into our week MVP and our best moment of the week. So I'll let you kick it off, Shola, if you want to do the honors.
I got you. Um So I didn't I didn't have a chance to watch full games. So if I butcher the player of the week and everybody just does not agree with me, don't kill me. I had midterms, okay? Please. I had better things to study for before I had to come back to this. So if I butcher it, I'm sorry. I'm gonna give a forward defenseman and goalie. Actually, I'm not gonna give a goalie because both the goalies did not impress me this week. I guess Cam Talbot played worse than John Gibson. Clearly, he could let in 7 goals, but at the same time, um, this man John Gibson let in 8 over 2 games. So I don't know who I can really say was better. I can say like Ken Talbot was worse because he let in 7 in 1 game, but like they both played pretty bad during the week. So I'm not gonna give a goalie of the week. I can give like a fake one to John Gibson. There you go. That's my goalie of the week. For defenseman, I'm going to give it to. Hmm, I actually don't know. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Ben Sherratt, and I'm gonna give a secondary one to JBD, um, Jacob Bernard Docker. And the reason why I say this is because I talked about Ben Sherratt earlier this episode, and we both talked about him last week on how, like, if I'm just looking at straight numbers in the Sabres game, he had a plus minus of 0. He threw 4 hit. Sorry, he blocked 4 shots and he threw a hit. In the Buffalo game, sorry, not the Buffalo game, the Islanders game, I'm not gonna talk about it. Everybody was ass. And then the Blues game, he had a plus minus of 1, and then he was just there stopping. He had 2 hits. He didn't have a block, but like he was still playing like pretty well for a top line um defenseman. And I think that's what you need as a Red Wings fan. Like if you need someone there who can just like keep it steady for your top line, like you expect everybody on your top line to play particularly well. That's why you have them there. So if you have a guy like Ben Sherratt, um, who can just keep it calm and keep it steady for a good 20 minutes of the game, like there's nothing else you can really ask for. Um, and I think he was one of the better defensemen of the week. I was talking with Alex during the beginning of the episode, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna give my player of the week for defenseman to Simon Edmondson because of the 2 goals he got against the Blues." And he was like, "Please don't do that. He played like absolute shit this week." And I'm like, okay, fine. I won't." I didn't know. I'm looking back at the thing now, and I saw that he actually was not playing that well. Apart from the 2 goals, but I do want to give a shout out to Simon Edmondson. That goal against the Blues, my God, he played that goal was great. I have nothing bad to say about that, but everything else you can definitely take like with a grain of like he played particularly bad this week. Moving on, the the forwards of the week. I'm gonna give it to 2. I'm gonna give it to Emmett Finney. And I'm gonna give it to JT Comfort. I think he impressed me the most this week because we are talking about depth scoring and bottom 6 scoring, and they delivered. Really, JT Comfort and Jonathan Berggren, they both delivered. Emmett Finney, for a rookie, he's still impressing me. Like he had a goal against the Blues, he had a goal against the Sabres, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think he did. Yes, he did. So 2 goals during the week, 2 points during the week. There's nothing bad you can say about Emmett Finney. I was talking about his pairing with Dylan Larkin, being that guy who can throw around hits, who can receive the puck in many different areas, many different spaces. Um, Kind of playing a Patrick Kane role, as you said, as he's been out. Um, and he, for a rookie, he's still impressing me. I hope he can still impress me throughout the whole LA trip. Um, But for a top line center, for a top line center, he's been playing pretty well. So there's nothing bad I can say about him. And JT Comper, my guy, that guy played pretty well this week. His pairing with Jonathan Berger this week, and I actually don't know who the other person he was paired with because he switched around throughout the week. Um, he was he played like particularly well. He got a goal on his pair on when he was on against the Sabres. He got a goal and an assist against the Blues. And I think he assisted Jonathan Berger, I would assume. So like there's for depth scoring, it's a positive. There's nothing like I always say there's nothing bad you can say, but there is. Um it's a positive in the fact that we were talking about it last week with the reliance on Dylan Larkin and Emmett Finney and that top pair and that second pair sometimes on how they would do the majority of the scoring and how the bottom six was not really getting into anything. Like there was no really attacking pressure. They were just mainly out there for defensive work and then they got out for the top pair to go back in. So seeing that JT Confer and Jonathan Berger can actually put in work and put in points, as you can see, throughout this week. It's something to look out for, and it's something to be optimistic about that can continue throughout next week and throughout the rest of the season. So yeah, honestly, that's all I really have to say. Like those are my players of the week. We expect honestly, Dylan Larkin still plays unbelievable to me, even though he didn't get an assist during that Blues game, which I think he got robbed. Um his point streak came to an end, but like he's still unbelievable. He's still my player of the season so far for October. Um and in September. So yeah, that's all I got. Alex, who do you got this week?
Yeah, I'll forfeit the goalies. I'm just picking lesser of two evils if I do. I will say Gibson played better objectively because he didn't get lit up for 7. So I'll give him goalie of the week, but it's not like it's a proud one. For defenseman of the week, woof, also not great. I like the Ben Sherratt pull. I talked about him in our Blues post game recap. Um, I think I like Ben Sherratt. Again, steadying presence. He was solid. I'll give some love to Travis Hamonic, who only showed up in the Blues game because they went 7 defensemen, 11 forwards. He played, I think, fairly steady. I mean, he gets an assist on the comfort tip in. I liked Hamonic in that game back, and I don't want to see him in the lineup every night, but if somebody goes down on the right side, he's kind of shown that he can step in for a game or two and give you some decent minutes, which I like. So I'll give Hamonic some praise there. And my MVP for forwards this week, it's Jonathan Berggren. And again, this is mostly a shout because I love Berggren. I think he's one of the players who's not like a star on this team that I really like. Obviously, a media darling. This guy's hilarious. But Berggren has kind of been, I don't want to say a dark horse to be a game changer for this team, but last year, I mean, you put an offensive player in a offensively inept bottom six and asked him to do the work by himself. Berggren was dishing to Tyler Mott and Michael Rasmussen or Joe Veleno most nights. Those guys couldn't score if you gave him an empty net. Now that he's kind of paired with, Comfer, who seems much improved, and he gets some minutes with maybe some Cop minutes or Soderblom, MBN, what have you, a more capable bottom six, I think you're going to see Berggren kind of flirt with 30 points, which is a huge thing for him. And hopefully it's enough to keep his spot on the team. I think this week he was a little bit more aggressive. He was willing to go check some people. I don't think he was as fragile as he has been in past seasons. I think Berggren kind of got the memo that his spot might be in jeopardy from Nate Danielson, who had a great night after coming back in Grand Rapids, and Carter Mazer, who's just been on fire in Grand Rapids all year. I think that kind of put him on alert, and he's been much improved to start this season. Looking into next week, keep an eye on all of those guys. And that's going to be a wrap on our show. Shorter episode because we don't have 5 games to recap, so this will kind of be your more average episode time. We were without Stefan Malov. It makes no difference to you guys, don't worry. The grand contributions. I think that guy played okay.
He's good. He'll get better. Don't worry. He's still in his preseason.
Yeah, I would
He's
say
getting he'll get there.
this was your George Springer home run to beat the Mariners. This was your episode performance of that. It's a big episode from Shola. Big
There
love.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I'm
Well,
back.
that's what I'm saying. We're it was preseason for us too. Stefan's
Yeah,
doing a conditioning stint or whatever we're gonna call this.
exactly too. He threw up a couple bad shots. I'm talking basketball. I know I'm supposed to be talking hockey, but he threw up a couple bad shots. He was missing them. Now coach is making him run.
Yeah,
He's out for a little
I guess
bit.
you could do baseball, World Series. We're
Yeah.
a Red Wings podcast, but we are from Toronto, so shout
Yeah.
out the Jays.
Go Blue
They
Jays.
got mollywopped last night. They kind of
Um, I watched that game yesterday. Holy shit! I wanted to turn the game off so quickly.
that
We
was
couldn't get
terrible.
nothing going.
Yeah, that
But
was bad.
it's okay. Big bounce back tomorrow. I
Yeah,
think we play
B-ball
tomorrow. Big
Barger,
bounce
baby.
back.
Yeah, tomorrow and Tuesday. We won't be
Yeah.
recapping those games, but if the Jays win a World Series, we might give that a shout. If they don't, we're never
Hey,
speaking of it again.
if the Blue Jays win the World Series by next week, I will do the intro instead of Alex, and I will stream "Let's Go Blue Jays." It will happen. That's what's gonna happen for next week. I
I don't
think
even
all
think
the
the Jays.
games.
What do they have to like sweep the series to do that?
I think all the games for the Blue Jays are next week. I don't know if they
Are
don't. I
they?
don't think they go until Sunday. If they do, then if it goes to 7 games, hopefully we like then we're in it. Like,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
hey,
Who knows?
if we hope
Shout
we
out
can only
Mad
hope
Max.
as Jays fan. Yeah. Before we go, and we will give. I'm gonna give my predictions for next week.
Okay.
We let's do that before we
Let
go.
me get my phone. I
Um,
forgot that we do this.
yeah, don't worry, we got you. Um, I'm gonna go. Are we counting Sunday's game?
We'll
Because we
count
usually
Sunday's
record
game
on.
because it's
Okay,
Sunday night as we record this.
yeah. So I'll count Sunday's game. I think they go into Buffalo and win.
Into
Actually,
Buffalo.
no. Yeah, they're away. Oh
Buffalo.
my,
They play
yeah.
St.
Oh wait.
Louis. What are you doing?
Oh my
Terrible, terrible. You just
God.
that's George Springer
I'm
last game. You just grounded into a double play. That was terrible
Oh my
work.
God, I'm losing it.
No, you're good.
St. Louis. They go into St. Louis, and I said win. I'm gonna take it back. They lose. I'm gonna say they lose. Um,
Okay.
good. Just because I messed up, they lose. But then they go into their 3 games in California, Los Angeles. I'm gonna Anaheim and San Jose, and they win. They're gonna win all 3 of them. You heard it here first.
Yeah, you're gonna
I'm
sweep
gonna
San Jose.
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna give a player one because my player one from last week worked. ASP did get an assist. I think
Okay.
I said three
You
points,
said
but
2
he did
points,
get
but it's
eight.
close
I
enough.
said
It's
two.
a
He
point.
got an assist. He got 8 points. It counts. Um, I'm gonna say that Dylan Larkin gets at least 6 points this week. That's what I'm gonna say. You know what? And I'm gonna add one. I'm gonna say Emmett Finney gets 4 points this week. So I'm gonna say one for each game. Emmett Finney gets an assist. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, for my predictions, I'll say honestly, I'll say they beat St. Louis because St. Louis is on a back-to-back. Maybe vibes are high. We'll give them. I could see them beating LA. LA kind of plays a really boring game. I could see them beating LA. I think they'll lose to Anaheim and then beat San Jose. So I'll go 3-1. And for my player
Two and
prediction,
two.
what? That's 3-1.
2-2. You
I
said
said
they
they beat
lose,
St. Louis.
and then you said they lose.
I
Oh,
said they
well,
lose
no, you
to
said they lose.
Anaheim.
Oh,
Did
oh my
I don't know.
God.
If you're watching this
No,
back,
no,
then
you
I'm
did, you
wrong,
did,
and
you did, you did,
I'll
you did, you did.
forward review.
It's 3-1. It's 3-1.
Okay,
Sorry,
three
my
and
bad.
one, and then for my player prediction, give me. I'll go off the board a little bit. I'll say Ben Sherratt gets a goal at some point this week. I don't think he
I
will, but
like
I think
that.
that
I
that'd be
like that
fun.
pick.
Fun for Benny.
I would love that.
All right, so that's the wrap on this week's show. We're on YouTube as well. We have a couple smaller post game episodes up on there. We have one for St. Louis, a couple of short form content for all of you who can't watch full episodes because I don't blame you. I couldn't either. Um, we're all over the place. If you're there, you can leave a comment. You can leave hate comments for all we care. It's just Kicking Tires Podcast on YouTube. Any interaction helps. And yeah, I guess this is both of us signing off. Any final thoughts, Shola?
No, thank you for listening though. We do appreciate it. We do look at it. If you do leave us a comment on what you want to see, we will implement it.
We'll
Don't you
do it.
worry. We'll actually do
We
it.
are, we are we are men of the people.
Yeah. So if you have anything to say, hateful stuff, loving stuff, what you did today, like we'll read it out maybe. Um,
Some guy telling
we'll
us what
do
to
it. Yeah, we'll do it. So anything you want to say, let us know. We're on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Alex is in charge of
say.
that. He does run it.
I run it
Um
a little. I run it
he run it
enough.
he runs it enough to the point where I do get notifications that we post. So um if you want to leave us a comment there as well. Um Inside the Rink, the main man himself, Alex, he's putting out his Red Wings articles
No,
whenever you can. Take a look at those. And
only one up a
honestly,
week.
that's it. That's all I got. Thank you for listening, guys. This is us signing off.
All right.
We
Well,
will see you back hopefully on the same day that we record next week. We pray. Hopefully Stefan's back. I don't know.
I
We
don't know.
seriously don't know.
Yeah, those
But
LA road trips start at 10, so that'll be a fun night
hey,
for us.
oh well, we'll be okay.
All
We'll be
right.
fine.
Well, ciao, guys. I love our. We managed to do like as much as we do in wrap ups as regular segments. So,
Yeah,
you know,
don't worry.
thanks for
We're
sticking
good.
with us, and we hope to see you guys soon.